Like and subscribe right now, or you're going to have bad luck for the rest of the week.
It's human to make mistakes and errors. It's what makes us unique. But unfortunately, some of these mistakes may happen at work and have consequences. Typically, the mistake is fixed and the entire thing is forgotten in practically no time, and even joked about in the future. However, a work environment mistake is much more difficult to overlook when buildings and structures fail to be correctly built. Structures are built to last long, for certain historical structures standing tall following many years, regardless if it is because of human mistakes, unethical construction methods, or incorrect materials. It may have fatal consequences. So let's look at some of these construction errors to see what went wrong. Number 10. The Vdara Hotel and Spa. The Vdara Hotel and Spa in Las Vegas faced a special set of issues brought on by the design plan of the exterior of the structure. In 2010, an entire year after the hotel was built, it was discovered that the combination of another building's reflective surface and the curvy design structure worked as a mirror, which reflected the sun rays into a beam of excess light and heat like a magnifying glass would. Unfortunately for the visitors, this light beam was aimed at the middle of the pool deck, what is called a death ray by the hotel staff and news outlets. This particular situation had caused so many issues which you would never be able to find in any other hotels. People relaxing by the pool would often be burned by the amount of heat, with one guest stating that it even melted his plastic bag completely. Even though no method has been found to fix this issue completely, the hotel management has started to install large umbrellas on the pool deck to shield people from this death ray, and has also started covering the glass with a non-reflective film. Number 9. The CNA Center. The CNA Center in Chicago is a high-rise building that opened its doors to the public in 1972. This 44-story building was planned by the firm of Graham, Anderson, Probst & White. It's painted in a radiant red, making it quite a sight to behold by everyone. In 1999, an enormous piece of a window came falling from the 29th floor of this building and plunged to the ground, resulting in one casualty. The reason for this incident was thermal expansion, and after an $18 million settlement, all of the structure's windows were replaced by new ones. Every single one of the windows is checked monthly to make sure that such an incident shall never occur again. Good on them to recognize the issue and fix it immediately. Number 8. The Sampoong Department Store. The Sampoong Department Store collapse incident occurred on June 29, 1995. Lee Jun, the head of the Sampoong Group, chose to totally rebuild the structure, changing it from an apartment building to a larger department store. Everything regarding the construction was wrong. You can't simply choose to change the fundamental function of a building without completely altering the actual plan, including reducing the size and number of support bars to make room for lifts and escalators. Woo-Soon Company, which was supposed to fully construct the building, wouldn't make these changes, so Jun annulled their contract and began to employ his own construction firm to start building the project instead. This ended up with the building collapsing, and this disaster cost the life of 502 people. Number 7. Palace 2. Palace 2 was a tower block built in 1990, and this 22-story apartment block rose to fame in Brazil, with the new area surrounding this building being advertised as a middle-class stream with various facilities. However, all of this changed in February 1998 when portions of the structure started to disintegrate and tumble to the ground. Nonetheless, even after this dangerous incident, the building was declared to be safe to live in, and with this completely incorrect decision, soon another large section of the building fell towards the ground. Finally, the building was demolished and the company behind the construction became involved in several investigations. The examination uncovered that the steel poles utilized as the main foundation structure had been eroded from ocean salt. This evidence showed that the company cut very important things from the budget. It was found that the construction group had been using a mix of seawater and beach sand to create a very cheap version of cement, so it's extremely astounding that the structure still stood for 3 years after its construction was finished in 1995. Number 6. The Lotus Riverside. The Lotus Riverside was a private apartment building complex in Shanghai consisting of 11 13-story structures. It was constructed by Shanghai Zhongjing Construction. On the morning of June 27, 2009, one of these structures started falling, barely missing a nearby structure. Had it not been missed, the falling building could have hit another, resulting in a chain reaction. The level of disaster that could have resulted from this accident are unimaginable. The reason for the collapse was due to an excavation that was carried out in order to build an underground garage. The dirt was moved from underneath the structure and was unloaded into a landfill close to a creek, where its weight caused the stream bank to collapse. Water from the creek then leaked into the ground, transforming the building's foundation into mud. Due to this incident, 120 families were moved from their residences to hotels, which was funded by the government. Number 5. Ray and Maria's Data Center. The Ray and Maria's Data Center at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology was planned and designed by multiple award-winning engineer Frank Gehry. It opened in 2004, and people were amazed at its angles that logic could not define, and it went well beyond the laws of physics. 3 years after it opened, the MIT submitted a negligence suit against Gehry, stating that design imperfections in the $300 million building had created major structural issues. Drainage block issues created significant problems, like mold growing on the building's brick exterior. With how much there was spent on this building, there was no way to excuse these issues arising. The school had to pay more than $1.5 million to fix these. Several people attempted to alert Gehry of the issues with the plan and suggested multiple times to use more appropriate materials. However, he was convinced with his plans and went ahead with it. He must have regretted the outcomes later on. Number 4. Campa Arena. Campa Arena is an indoor arena in Kansas City, Missouri that opened in 1974. It had been the site of the 1976 Republican National Convention and had won awards for its distinctive design. On June 4, 1979, the roof came crashing down as a heavy storm claimed the city. Luckily, it wasn't being used at that time, so there were no wounds or fatalities, but it was still a shock to the city. If there were people under this roof when it had collapsed, people might have lost their lives that day. The roof had been designed to drain rainwater gradually to try not to flood the nearby West Bottoms region. However, somehow the water didn't get drained properly, creating further weight on the roof. To make conditions worse, the roof was suspended from holders, and the strength of their bolts had been misjudged. When one single bolt loosened up, a significant number of the adjoining ones broke away with the same pattern, eventually prompting the roof's collapse. Number 3. John Hancock Tower. The John Hancock Tower is a 60-story high-rise building in Boston that was planned by the IMP and Partners structural firm and completed in 1976. Its striking appearance won it awards from various architectural communities, but it was still full of issues nonetheless. One very significant issue were the windows, which unfortunately started crumbling and falling to the ground below, which obviously was a very dangerous thing to happen. In the 1992 book Why Buildings Fall Down, writers Matthias Levy and Mario Salvadori clarified that this was because of the unexpected rehashed thermal stress to the panels. In the end, every one of the 10,000 windows were replaced at an expensive amount of $5 million. The John Hancock Tower also experienced another serious issue. Skyscrapers are intended to sway slightly so that strong gusts of winds could be absorbed. The John Hancock Tower swayed so significantly that it gave the tenants of the upper floors motion sickness. The issue was at long last addressed by Cambridge engineer William Lemsurier and is in works to be fixed. Number 2. Versailles Wedding Hall. As Karen and Asaf Dror arranged their wedding day, this would have been the last thing they expected to happen, as an enormous part of the third story of the Versailles Wedding Hall collapsed. Right before the third floor collapsed, guests noticed the floor above them slowly bending downwards. The wedding was held on this third floor with 700 visitors in attendance, and the floor simply couldn't handle that many individuals. The construction method of this particular building was so dangerous that the practice even got banned. The Paracal technique for constructions depended on a method of making lightweight floors and roofs from metal plates and cement, an incredibly cost-efficient choice that became famous in the 1980s. This was not by any means the only reason for the breakdown, however. While the building's construction was planned, only one side of the building was designed to have a third story. Yet, a somewhat late plan changed this, and now both sides of the building were going to have a third story. Number 1. Aon Center. The Aon Center is the third tallest structure in Chicago. It was finished in 1973 and was initially named the Standard Oil Building. When the construction was finally done, the structure was a marvel to observe due to the choice to sheath the whole design in Italian Carrara marble. The structure looks incredible, however, its beautiful exterior came at an exceptionally high cost. Carrara marble is a lot more slender than other building materials, and in 1974, one of the pieces separated from the structures and collided with the top of the adjoining Prudential Center. An examination uncovered that the marble was a bad choice as a building material and was now crumbling apart. Eventually, the marble was replaced with granite at an expense of more than $80 million. On May 14, 2018, the structure's proprietors disclosed a $185 million proposition for an observatory highlighting the filling right on the rooftop called the Sky Summit, which is the world's highest elevator. The observatory was supposed to be finished in 2022, however, the COVID-19 pandemic has delayed development plans by almost a year. That is all for today's video. Thank you all for watching. While you're here, go ahead and click one of these 2 videos on your screen. See you there!